Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Built Different podcast. In studio today, I have Rick Pettit with me. Him and I worked together for a little bit in the city, so I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hey, I'm Rick Pettit. I'm a 5-year policeman now. I worked in 6th District of St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department for a little over 3 years, and now I'm working in Brentwood, Missouri for a little over a year, coming up on a year and a half.
So that's a big change. Let's talk a little bit about that, right off the bat. So you go from, the north side of the city to just a lot slower pace. There's a lot of, I'm sure you get a lot of different crimes. I mean, I'm sure there's still crimes, but
I think the biggest adjustment was waiting. For something to happen in the city. Everything was kind of like happen all at once. Yeah. And then, or it wouldn't happen all, and then happen all at once. And Brentwood is just kind of, I think, the big waiting part of things.
Yeah. Yeah, in the city, it seemed like we were, and I think things, I don't know, they kind of get better now because they're getting a little bit more proactive. But at least when we were around, it was almost like a glorified janitorial service. Like we would just go from one mess to another and clean it up. And it was like
absolutely
very draining. So you've been in Brentwood for how long now?
Year and a half now. Coming on 2 in November. So
how many people will work on a shift with you? Is it shift wise?
Yeah, so we have a squad.
Okay.
And it's sergeant, a corporal, and then 3 patrolmen. There's 4 of them. So 5 guys. Our minimum staffing's 3.
Okay.
Which isn't bad. We're a 2 square mile town with 8,000 people. It can get busy, but
right. Is there any big things that you guys have there? I don't.
The Brentwood Promenade parking lot.
Okay.
Everyone's worst nightmare in the St. Louis area, but even that's not that bad.
Yeah. So I guess let's start off. Let's walk through. So where'd you come from? Did you go to college? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I'm from Waynesville, Missouri.
Okay.
My dad was in the Army, got stationed out there, and that was 21 years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. And he always was huge on the first chance we get out of Missouri, we're going to take it. That never happened. I went to Missouri State University down in Springfield, where all my roommates were from Afton. And I was like, these guys are really fun to hang out with. There's nothing to do in Waynesville. I guess I'll go to St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, the police department's hiring. My family's all cops. So I was like, might as well become a cop. And 6 years later now, St. Louis is home.
Yeah. So did you have any other family members that were in the city, or were they all just kind of around?
They were all NYPD, so cops in New York. That's where my mom was from.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
So do you get to talk to your other family at NYPD? Is there a lot of the same big city policing differences, or?
It's it's a much bigger metropolitan.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. My cousin, he actually just came out for a visit. He works in Manhattan. He's a detective, and he was baffled at the fact that you could see people walking with firearms. In all honesty, he was like, "That's wild." He's like, you can't do that in New York.
It's changed now. Did you know that?
In St. Louis?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I was just talking to Brad Nelson about it the other day, and it sounds like that they're making. They're not making it. Has been a city crime, so now it's actually probable cause to stop someone from opening carry. Okay. You can challenge people, which is it's always kind of been there, but it was never enforced like it should have been. So it sounds like they're changing that, and they're actually enforcing that a little bit.
Wow,
so.
That's awesome.
But I could definitely see.
He was like, wow, that guy. You could see, look at his shirt. It's tucked on. And you're like, it's St. Louis, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's typical. So. You start at St. Louis, and did you start off at nights? Is that right?
Yeah, so in the academy, you had the wish list. Yeah. And I asked for days down south, and I got nights up north, and I was like, great. But no, I ended up loving it. Yeah. I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. I couldn't get used to nights. I never got the schedule. My body just never adjusted. Yeah. Working the 8-day stretches I was just always tired.
It was a motley crew, too. You got Greg Schaefer.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those guys.
It was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, "Holy cow! I'm tired all the time. I want to get off work.
You're a zombie."
Yeah, I want to sleep at night and be awake during the day. And
so I guess this kind of falls into my next question. So working on nights, and we can do the differences now from when you were in the city and when you're not. Mm-hmm. But how does that affect your family life? Talking, especially on night watch.
Oh yeah. I remember on nights when I first started, my parents, they live 2 hours away, and they were like, "Oh, come on down for a visit. Come on down whenever you get a chance." All this stuff, And I'd come home and I'd set an alarm and be like, okay, I'm going to drive down, make the trip down, and I would just sleep through it. And it was just constantly like that. And it was constantly like that. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Like, we understand. I could tell that they were getting aggravated.
Yeah.
And then going to day watch, it was a little bit better because sometimes, after working 3 to 11, I'd just make the trip down, spend the night down there, then spend the day with them, come back.
Yeah.
And working 12-hour shifts in Brentwood, we alternate every 28 days from days to nights, which is a little adjustment on the body. But we have so many more days off. It actually helps out a lot.
What's the schedule like? Are you on 16 hours or are you on at Brentwood?
We do 12 hours.
12 hours.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every other weekend off, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Helps out with the family life too.
Right.
Yeah.
Early on, I guess. So who was your training officer first? Let's start there.
Colin McEnany.
Okay.
And
he's a good guy.
He is.
I don't know him a whole lot, but I remember, brushing arms with him every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I guess, every officer has that learning point, and usually 9 times out of 10, it's going to be from an FTO. Mm-hmm. So I like to ask, what were the do's and don'ts that you learned early on in the career?
I think the do's were, one thing was always listen to the other guys. Listen to the guys that have a lot of time on. They've pretty much been through every experience that you could think of. Mm-hmm. Learn from Greg Schaefer. I know he's on here. Greg was kind of like the guy you would call before you'd call Sarge on the squad.
You're like,
Be like, hey, this is what we have.
How much trouble am I in?
Pretty much. And if Greg started laughing, it was like, okay, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And if he goes, well, and then he'd just follow it up with, fatherly advice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the big do's, was always talk to the older guys, and it helped.
Yeah.
The don'ts were, they put me with, because they would do like little round robin training. I was with Chris Edwards for a little bit. Yeah. And he was like, you ever see those shows on TV with cops? And I was like, yeah. He goes, don't do anything they do. It's all Hollywood. And I was like, sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
I think that was really a great point that he made, was just because it's on TV doesn't mean you should do it. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, so how long did you spend on nights? You spent, was it 2 years?
A little over a year. So December 19th, 2021, I'll always remember this day is when I got switched over to days. Because I was like, great. I was like, thank God, get me off nights.
December 19th of 2021.
Yeah. So we were on a squad for like about a month together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I was like, man, I thought we were on it longer. Man, that's wild. So let's talk a little bit about that. Then so you started basically in 21 almost, at the end of 21 almost. So you were there at the city for another year after that before you left, or was it 2 years?
So I started September of 2020 and then went through, and December of 2021 is when I got switched to days, and then I left in November of 23.
What made you want to leave?
Kind of the old squad, everyone was going different places, whether on the department or leaving in general. Yeah. And I was looking, kind of trying to figure out what the next step was. Yeah. And at the time, because of manpower, there was no transfers or internships. Yeah. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be a patrolman for the rest of my life,
I might as well
get better pay. So I just
that city, change your pay.
Yeah. So I just kind of looked around and was talking to guys that I had worked with. Talking with guys on the department who knew people that went places, because everyone knows someone somewhere else now. Mm-hmm. And I heard about Brentwood. The pay was good. The pension's really good. The schedule wasn't bad. There's almost no interstate that you have to work on, which I was like, that's not bad at all. Yeah.
The interstate's a big thing. I mean, well, even where we came from, there was really, at most, you had 1.5 miles of interstate, because you had the mile stretch of 70 and the 270 half a mile maybe. Yeah. At that.
And so, my entire time, the only experience I had with interstates was 70, and I was like, get me off this damn road.
Yeah. 70 is wild.
So I was just kind of looking around, and everyone that I talked to from the city that had went to Brentwood was like,
are there a lot of guys out there from the city?
We pretty much are only hiring out of the city at this point. And it is what it is, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And the city they should definitely see that as because they're probably losing a lot of good officers. I mean, you being one of them.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's, you go out there and then you tell your buddy about it and then they put in their application.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how it works right now.
It's happening across the board. I mean, there's a lot of guys going places, so.
We just got a pay bump too, so that's always helping.
That is nice. That is nice. Which one would you recommend for someone who was wanting to get into policing?
Into policing? I mean, I'm going to tell them to do it.
Yeah.
If it was my kid, I'd say no.
Yeah.
But if someone that, was talking to me was like, hey, I think I want to do this. Hey, give it a try. I mean, go for it. You'll find out in the academy, I guess, whether it's for you or not. And then if you start patrolling and you find out it's not for you, get out. But personally, I've had a lot of experiences with law enforcement at this point, just good and bad. And all in all, I think I would say pursue the career, Yeah. All my family from the NYPD, they were like, don't do it. My cousin that's on was like, no, dude, it's the coolest job in the world.
Yeah.
And I listened to my cousin, not the guys that did the career, and can't really complain.
I like to ask this question, and it still relates now, but I know for me, working in the city, I had several different things that I used to decompress after the job. I think my favorite one was literally just my hour drive home whenever I moved to Vandalia. Yeah. I literally just turned up my music and listened to music the whole drive home, and people called me crazy for taking an hour to drive home. But I mean, I'm sure when you worked in the city, and even now probably, when you get home, you don't just go straight to bed.
Oh.
But on evening shift, when I worked in the city, I could do that. Because I had an hour drive home. I could literally, my head would hit the pillow and I would sleep like a baby. I don't know. But what are some of the ways that you use to decompress?
Take the dogs on a walk. That's, I think, my biggest one.
Yeah.
I got my little dog that I got from the north side, Beans.
Beans, yep.
Sweet little angel baby. Love taking him out on walks. I think that was the biggest thing, was getting off, especially 3 to 11, even though it's kind of like a weird time where we were living at. We could always just kind of go through the neighborhood. No one really said anything.
Right.
Just playing with him. Got into cooking too.
Yeah.
It's
what do you cook?
It's a great way to whatever you want, man.
I just got on
Instagram and started going through the recipes. I'm like, that looks easy, and
that's awesome.
I don't do a great job every time, but
it's something. You got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe you'll be like on TV one day, like cooking up some mean cooks,
Doubt that, but no, it's just kind of like a fun way to, like, one, eat better, and then two, actually, like, try something different that I'd never tried before. And because I was always like a huge ramen noodles, just something I can microwave after work type of guy.
Something you can live on, at least make it to the next meal.
I was in my early 20s. I was like, I don't care about cooking.
Yeah, you just got to make it to the next meal.
Yeah.
So every officer usually has something that comes to mind whenever I say, name some of your most precious times, I guess, on the job.
Yeah.
So what are those?
I think it'd be like hanging out at Geraldine and Brown with the guys,
Yeah.
Getting the old squad. Everyone's hanging out.
Yeah.
It's like the calm in between the storm. Because it was never before or after. It was like, hey, we're going to eat real quick over here. And people just kind of pull up. And then you talk. And then suddenly something else would come out. And you're like, all right, see you guys on the next one.
I always remember sitting there like playing on our phones. And no one would say it, because obviously as cops we're all very superstitious. But you could just feel it festering in the background. Yeah. And it seemed like I would, lean my chair back or something, and then I would hear attention all cars, and I was like, here he comes, there's a shooting coming out, or someone's chasing a car, or, just whatever. It never seemed like you could get that full shift of just relaxation. There was always something.
Especially if it was a nice day out.
Oh, yeah. Summer days.
Close to relief, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, it's happening. Okay, so with all of the best times, I'm sure you had some of the worst times. Let's talk about those.
Oh, sure. I think my worst time was not being there, the day of the shooting.
Yeah.
I took it off last minute.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man. You just feel guilty about that.
Oh, absolutely. You should have been there. Yeah.
I think, to this day, that will always be the worst experience. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
That will be the worst experience that I've had so far with law enforcement was taking a day off last minute.
I totally understand that. I mean, you want to be there for everything, even this most recent time with Nate, like I've been retired for 3 years now, and just my heart sunk, and I got to experience, I feel like what would have been a little bit of like what you felt, with all of that. You know, because that was Brad's first day back in the city and all of that stuff.
And he was telling Tori, like, don't worry.
Oh, he was...
Tori probably hasn't heard the end of that one yet.
Tori watches a lot of my podcasts, so I'm definitely going to out Brad, but he was definitely gaslighting her.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But
Tori, you did great.
Yeah, no, I mean, seeing Nate get hit on the highway and stuff, I didn't see it, but, you know, hearing about it and stuff... that's hard. I mean, as an officer, you're, you know, in your head, you want to be there for things and be there to help not only people, but the people you work with, and not being able to be there and complete that. I'm sure, especially being, I mean, you were a state over.
Oh, yeah, I was in Kentucky. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I just got to Kentucky. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So I don't remember a whole lot about some of the times that we worked together, but I'm sure you got some stories. I do remember this. I do remember finding beans down in the Greaterville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Little boy.
Yeah, I remember that. So your dog, you named him Beans. We found him in the Greaterville in a vacant house, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We got a call for puppies left in a Vaco.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, it was disgusting. There's needles on the floor. There's dog poop everywhere. And one little dog just kept following me around and sleeping on my boot. And I was like, all right, I'm taking you home. You're mine.
Yeah, no, that was pretty neat. I remember I had a dog. I had a Vaco dog too that I had found in, I think, Walnut Park, and I think she had been like a fighting dog, or, you know, and she had been used to breed and stuff like that. And I took her down to Second Chance, and I waited like, I think 2 or 3 days, and I finally called down there and I was like, hey, is that dog still around? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like,
that's a sign.
I guess I got a dog. So I went down there and adopted her, and yeah, that was... Hood dogs are the most loving dogs, I feel like, ever. Like,
Beans is a 100-pound cuddle bug.
Yep.
Looks terrifying, but he's great.
Yeah, they don't leave your side.
Not at all.
It's funny. I think you've already kind of hit on this, but I'm going to ask it again. Would you recommend this job to a family member or friend?
Not a family member, definitely a friend. Like my uncle said, they were like, don't do that, you know, don't go into law enforcement. And I was like, I just got a degree in criminology. Like, it's a little too late for that. There's really nothing else I can really do except go to law school. Yeah. And my cousin had just gotten out of the academy and was like, this is insane. This is awesome. It's so much fun. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And my dad was like, just don't move back into the basement. Like, please, for the love of God, get out of my house.
Stay out.
So, I mean, the police side of the family was very much like, don't. And then my dad, he was in the Army. He was like, just do it. Whatever's going to make you happy, just do it. So I think for me, if my friends were looking, you know, for a career, I'd be like, sure, you know, it's very rewarding. It's going to be tough. There's going to be sacrifices that you're going to have to make. Yeah. But all in all, I'd say do it. And then if my kid was like, hey, I want to be a cop, I'd be like, what do you want to do? I'll pay whatever. Just don't do it.
All right, I'll pick up some overtime.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll do another shift. I'll work secondary, please.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah. It would be, I think, I don't have kids yet, but it would be really hard for me to, especially knowing what I know now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Recommend them walk down that path. I mean, and anywhere you work at nowadays is...
Oh, yeah. But don't get me wrong, if my kid was ever like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'd support him through and through. Yeah. After I would try my hardest to convince him not to do it, but I'd be like, hey, listen, like, whatever you need, you know.
You're stupid.
Yeah.
Do you like Brentwood, or are you going to stay in Brentwood? Yeah. You're not going to be one of them guys that runs back to the city?
I don't think I'm going to do the Muni Shuffle either.
Is that a thing? Do they?
You know, just bounce in department to department because someone will pay so much more here. You get this over here and stuff like that.
I can't believe, like, departments don't, like, stop that. They're like, hey, we're done, you know?
I mean, for the guys that do it, good for them. You know, find what's going to make you happy. Don't settle. But with Brentwood, where I'm at right now, I mean, it's not the city, you know. Mm-hmm. The grass is greener on the other side. I do miss, you know, the rock garden over here. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But no, I mean, for work and life and stuff like that, it's very sustainable. Yeah. And I think that's something I realized towards the end of the time in the city was, you know, okay, I've been here for 3 years now.
You got your experience.
Got my experience.
You're ragged and torn.
I was just like, it's, I got to kind of realize what's important to me now. Yeah. I was like, I'd love to see my family more. I'd love to be home more, experience, life a little bit more, which it wasn't impossible in the city. Yeah. But working, 7-day stretch for 8-hour shifts, being off for 2 days on a Monday and Tuesday, and then going back to work for a 7-day stretch, I was like, I'm missing out on so many life events. So I was like, it's time to kind of realize what's really important at the end of the day.
That's a big thing. Yeah. I mean, so often I feel like officers, especially in the city, make sacrifices. I remember being the first one to raise my hand to go work overtime on Christmas Eve or something. Yeah. For whatever reason, I liked, being on evening shift to Christmas Eve, eating the dinners, and I just like the environment, Yeah.
And that's one thing. It was that Geraldine Brown feel of guys all being together. Yeah. It was nice.
It was camaraderie and at its finest. And I think that's slowly coming back. I think with some of the departments restructuring and stuff like that, I feel like the guys are doing better. I know that there was COVID hit us hard, things like that. And but I feel like every time that, especially the north side, it just jumps right back in, and you get the same group of guys, and Mitchum's squad now, those guys are kind of taking the lead and doing some of the things that we used to do and coordinate. So that I think that north side mentality, won't ever die, which is good. Yeah. It was great having you on. I appreciate it.